Hello. Thank you all for coming. This is it's a big moment for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that this reception for this exhibition in Hindsight is our first virtual reception for the School of Art and Design, and also because In Hindsight is a show that, well, none of us knew if it was ever going to actually happen. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this is going to go. First of all, you're going to hear some words from our interim director, and then the capstone professor who worked with the artists that are in this show. And then I have a 30-minute video presentation for you, and it is all artist talks. Every artist that's in this exhibition, there are 6 of them, is going to talk for about 5 minutes in a pre-recorded video about their work, and you'll get to see some examples of their work. And then at the very end, we'll have a Q&A session. So first of all, I'm going to just make a couple of announcements. I'm Jamie Platt, and I'm the gallery director for the School of Art and Design. And the first announcement I want to make is about the show. In Hindsight is on view now in the Carroll Gallery in the School of Art and Design in the Visual Arts Center, and it's on view through September 17th. So if you want to come and see it, and you're not a student or faculty member in the School of Art and Design, you can just give the School of Art and Design a call and make a reservation to come and see the show. It's free. You just have to let us know when you're going to be here. The other announcement I have to make is that there is another show that's going to open next week in the Burke Art Gallery in Smith Hall, and that is Foundations Review Rewind. And so that show will be opening September 9th, and it goes till September 18th. And there's a virtual reception for that on September 14th. So that's it for announcements. So the first thing I'm going to do is introduce our new interim director, Frederick Bartolovic, and he's going to say a few words about this exhibition.
Thank you, Jamie. I want to just start. Jamie asked me to say a few words about Capstone, and what Capstone sort of represents for our school. And it's a pretty amazing experience, I think, for all the students who end up going through it. I find it interesting. When I'm asked to speak, I oftentimes find myself going to the dictionary and sort of trying to figure out the etymology of words. And, you know, capstone is this term that's an architectural term, and it represents a decorative stone or a capping stone that's used to complete a building or monument. And I think that speaks very well about the culmination of 4 years of study for students. I mean, the idea of going through capstone is very much about putting that final cap onto this sort of architectural foundation of studying art, and it's this milestone moment for all of our students to and the experience that they go through to get through it. This year, obviously, we had incredibly unique circumstances around the capstone, and I know that all the students that are showing today were supposed to show back in April, and the perseverance that has been shown by everybody to go ahead and make this show happen, and Jamie to go ahead and organize this online sort of opening for the show. It shows a great amount of dedication on all of your parts, and I find it incredibly impressive. This show in particular, you know, it highlights the unique skills and the talents that the students have developed over your 4+ years here. And what strikes me about this show is to be able to witness the amazing amount of growth that all of you as artists have gone through. And I hope that your families, you know, can see that and appreciate that like we here in the School of Art and Design can. So I'm just going to keep it short and end there, and I just want to congratulate all of the artists who are involved in this show for your perseverance to push through the COVID pandemic and to make the showing of your work the priority in your lives and figuring out how to make it happen. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you. So I'm going to give it over to Danny Kaufman now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Kaufman. I am the faculty member who is teaching capstone in the spring semester, working with the students. The capstone class rotates among all the faculty in the School of Art and Design, and I just so happen to have the privilege to work with the students in the spring semester. As Frederick was mentioning, the capstone is a culmination of the students' kind of 4 years of study in the School of Art and Design at Marshall University. The class itself is a class that helps prepare them not only for the exhibition, but for their next steps in their careers after graduation. But in many cases too, the students are, the work that they make for capstone, while it's being finished during that class, that semester, and many times it's being worked on semesters prior. I know the students in this particular capstone class and the students in this particular exhibition, really all of them have been working on those projects that we see now for at least 2 semesters a year. So putting a lot of effort into that work and a lot of time. And so it was a it's a large buildup, and it was definitely a disappointment in spring when we couldn't have those exhibitions. But we knew we wanted to have something, give them an opportunity, when we could. And I just think that I want to commend the students for the resilience, kind of waiting during the summer, communicating with me during the summer when we could have the exhibition, coming back to the building to finish up their exhibitions and get everything ready for this show. One thing too, in addition to working with myself and working with Jamie, the gallery director, during the exhibition or in planning of the exhibition, each student works one-on-one with a chosen faculty mentor. And really there's multiple mentors throughout the process of growth during those 4 years. So I'd like to just recognize kind of the faculty mentors that I worked with the students during capstone. And they're a big part of that process. But I just want to congratulate the students. The show looks fantastic. The work looks really, really great. And just kind of commend you on such hard work. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are at the part of this show where you get to watch what artists have to say about their work. I find that that's one of the things that really stood out to me about all of these artists and working with them. I wait for you to see it. So while you're watching, think about questions that you might want to ask. As soon as we wrap up, you'll get a chance to do that. So enjoy.
Hello, I'm Corey Vaughn, and welcome to The Laughing Place. I'm a recent Marshall graduate. I earned my BFA with an emphasis in painting during the COVID-19 pandemic. In this presentation, I will be allowing you to know a little bit about me, what I have created here, and saying thank you to everyone that has helped me get this far. So, let's not waste any time. When I was a little boy, my favorite thing to do was draw. If you ask my mother when I started, she always tells the story of how they pulled away the crib. And behind the crib, there were a bunch of scribbles, and with each scribble, there was an assignment, a family member, my mother, my father, and my sister. And every time someone asked me who that was, now, again, I was little, so someone might be lying, but every time someone asked, I always remembered who each scribble was. Because to me, they weren't a scribble, it was something I had created, something that mattered. So fast forward a few years later, and now the scribbles are people. They went from stick figures, they're fully fledged, maybe not so great, they're a little bit better. And now I'm using art as a way to escape from childhood bullies or escape school assignments because I'm not really big on quizzes and I'm not really big on, well, anything other than drawing. And it was around this point when I was 12 years old that I remember my mom looked at me and said that art will get you through the rest of your life and this is what you will do. And it was crazy because at 12 years old, your parents usually are like, what do you want to do? Like, you're thinking, right? They're setting you up to have an idea of how to make like lots of money. But my mom believed in me so much that she pushed me into this realm of believing in myself. On the other hand, I had a second parent who didn't believe in me too well, and he believed I'd be a starving artist. Right now I'm just kind of hungry. But anywho, every adult from that point on pushed me and encouraged me to work hard and to strive to create something beautiful and big. And that's because they believed in me. They saw something in me that at that time I didn't really believe in myself. And with that being said, I would love to say thank you to every person that ever helped raise me. From guidance counselors that let me sneak out of every class ever to sit and eat lunch over just staying away from other kids, or any art teacher I ever had that allowed me to have a friend that mattered and allowed me to feel like I mattered. Thank you so much, because I know I wasn't easy. Thank you for pushing me and believing in me. And following on, I bring you to The Laughing Place, which is this installation which you get to, if you come, interact with, and you will get to see what's kind of in my head, which I'm not really sure what that even is, but this is kind of what it looks like. In this space, I have created 3 separate rooms that have reminded me of my childhood, such as the kitchen, the living room, and the bathroom. And when I was little, the kitchen, I remember I used to run around in with tape and toilet paper, and I would string it around the kitchen and make mazes. But when I would get to a refrigerator, I would sit inside of the refrigerator, I guess because I liked the cold, and I always thought it was a really magical thing, like this little frosty little freezer, right? This is where the food is. This is where my nourishment comes from. Not that at that age I knew what nourishment was. I just knew what chicken nuggets were. I thought I did. Because as you get older, you kind of grow up and then all of a sudden you find out that the food, it was made out of cruelty. And it's this matter that is not decomposing because we put it in this machine that freezes it. And the reason why I bring that up is because there's this anxiety that came along later in life with me from this narrative that I was given versus the narrative I realized existed. And when you mesh the two together, you kind of have this place where you kind of go, well, what's the truth? Still haven't figured that out yet. So if you remember being in the living room and watching your cartoons on a Saturday morning, or making bubble beards, or being a pirate or a princess, and now you pick it yourself in a bathroom because it's no longer a place of playfulness, it's a place of privacy and emotional regrettability. Or you watch something on television and no longer do you have your own enjoyment, you're someone else's enjoyment, because now you're a consumer. And welcome to adulthood. Welcome to the laughing place. So with that being said, I would love to thank my Aunt Nan and all the people that helped donate to the show to help with the material costs. Again, thank you so much for being the village that raised me. It is a pretty large village. Thank you to my mom for being my #1 supporter. Thank you for raising me all on your own and believing in me. Thank you to, cannot forget, Mr. White of Rock Hill High School, who literally put me by his side, taught me what rock and roll was and how to draw.
Hi everyone, my name is Lilly Dyer and I'm a graduate of Marshall University's art program, and I have a degree in photography. Throughout my lifetime, stories have fueled my imagination, provided a refuge from reality, and supplied an emotional outlet. Like many kids growing up, me and my 3 siblings were incredibly imaginative and creative, and we used this as a way of survival. There's 3 siblings, including me. There's my older brother Josh, who lives here in West Virginia, my older sister Liz, who lives in Virginia, and my younger sister Susanna, who lives in Tennessee with the family that just recently adopted her. These 3 people are probably the greatest human beings that you could ever meet in your life. They're incredibly talented, they're so funny, and they love people so well. When I first decided to make this work about my family, it originally came from a place of anger and this yearning to get better and to move forward from this experience. Yeah, I really wanted to confront this question that I always had of what it meant to be a child of parents who are mentally ill. These photographs in the installation are these recreations of events that we experienced growing up. These moments where our bodies just stood still in time and where we kind of reflect on that moment that impacted our lives forever and impact us still as adults. But to me now, these photographs and the installation and this body of work as a whole doesn't come from a place of anger, but I see it as more of a love letter to the childhood and to the family that I no longer know. It's a celebration of resiliency that my family had growing up. I really want to thank the faculty here at Marshall for the experience that they've given me within the last 5 years. All of the staff really has molded me into becoming a better artist. They've really all pushed me and impacted me in a different way, and I feel very confident in the artist who I am now and the next step that I decide to take in my career. Secondly, and especially I wanted to thank Danny Kaufman and Ariel Wilson for just like fueling this fire that I have for photographs and for making and just instilling this love and passion that I have for it. Secondly, I really want to thank all of the adults in my life that really stepped in when my parents didn't. It's people like you that really break the cycle of toxic behavior, and I'm forever thankful for them. And lastly, thank you to my siblings. You all are just the greatest people I could ever ask for in my life. We all just love each other so well, and I'm very appreciative for it, and you guys push me constantly to be a better person and to constantly grow as a human. and you all are the reason why I make photographs and why I continue to make. So this work is dedicated to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe Murphy. I am a recent graduate of Marshall University 2020. I graduated with a bachelor's in art and psychology. I am thrilled to have my art up for this exhibition in Hindsight. I would just like to thank my parents, my family, my sister, my supportive fiance, the professors and faculty of the Marshall University School of Art and Design, more specifically Hannah Kozlowski and Ian Haggerty. Hannah, thank you for your supportive mentorship and encouraging words, and Ian, thank you for just showing me how to apply patience and endurance when it comes to making artwork. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my amazing grandmother who is not here today, unfortunately, to see my artwork, but I know she's smiling up from above. So thank you for all those people. Now I'm going to just explain my concept behind my work and why I did what I did with my materials. My exhibition title is called Deliverance. In short, it is about just the connection between African American culture and spirituality and just finding identity within yourself. I believe that these last 4 years at Marshall, I believe that I have just went on a journey of just wellness, spirituality, finding your identity within culture. I believe that that's just an important thing when it comes to just being a human being, you know, finding into identity, just finding just a reason to keep going, especially right now. I believe that it is my responsibility as a African American and a Christian just to address this message in a way that can reach all kinds of people, regardless of their background or regardless of their personal identity. I just wanted to create a message that just explains in a visual way the beauty behind expressing something, finding something to ground you in life, finding something that you can just look up to and just realize, you know, this is why I'm here. All right, now I'm gonna just talk about just the materials that I used for my work up here on the wall. So for these small pieces, I used mixed media and collage, and alongside these basic materials, I also used just materials that are culturally charged, such as filigree tubes, which are popular in African American braids and hairstyles. I used embroidery too, just to add a little accent and just to explore the embroidery part of it. All this just to say that I think that mixed media is really a big thing, that combining materials in this way is a metaphor just with life in general. You know, it might be messy, it might be weird. This is why life is beautiful.
Hi, my name is Breanna Perkins Hatfield, and this is my body of capstone work. I wanted to focus on ephemeral moments between myself and my friends and family that kind of encompass my life up to this point, specifically my battle with depression and my journey through dealing with my mental illness up to this point. And I wanted to capture these moments that kind of culminated in me being able to say that I've gotten to a point where I feel like I'm pretty mentally healthy by capturing each of these moments using 3D backgrounds but 2D characters. And the way that I wanted to capture these is by kind of creating from the ground up these moments that I had in my mind, because I've always been very focused on memory and how I might reflect on these memories or record them and be able to go back to them. And so through recreating each of these moments in my life from scratch, essentially using 3D modeling software, Blender, that I could, by recreating them, I could recontextualize them and put them kind of in order to show the story of me being able to get to this point of not being so explicitly depressed anymore, I guess. And I wanted to have each moment be ephemeral in the sense that you could feel it could last forever, or you could last for a very scant few moments. And the lines between where they begin and end are kind of blurred because the movements between each of the characters are very slight. They're not very bombastic, or there's no big action happening on the screen. It's just kind of a very quiet moment in time that stuck out to me in its simplicity, that I wanted to capture and kind of put on the screen in a way that would make sense to other people of why these moments mean so much to me. They might seem very innocuous at first, but once you put them all together, they kind of spell out the story of those moments made it so I could become mentally healthy and have that stability because of the people and friends and family around me providing that support. And I hope that comes across in these clips. The process of learning some vision software was arduous at first, but I had a lot of help from both my professors and my friends and family, visual support and things like that. And being at Marshall, a lot of classes focus on just kind of honing a craft that you've never explored before. Things like ceramics and photography that I hadn't really touched before, that I had to kind of build skill from the ground up, and that's what I did with this, because I had no experience with Blender beforehand. But having this community around me, like the art department specifically, was able to give me the confidence to kind of go head first into learning an entirely new program, an entirely new method of animation in order to create these scenes and make them come to life on the screen. I want to thank all my professors that I've had over the years that have been able to support me not only academically but emotionally. Hannah, Heather, Dr. Danford, Sarah, Ian. Just if I missed your name, I'm very sorry, but just everyone that I've come into contact with in this building has led me to be a much more confident artist and confident that I can make things like this and kind of see them through to the end. I also want to thank all my friends and family that have supported me just like me being there emotionally, my sisters, Jenna and Rachel and Katie and my mom, all my relatives, my mamma. And I want to also thank my papa and my dad who aren't here, but I'm glad that they were able to get me to this point in my life. And to conclude, I would actually like to share a poem that kind of inspired me to start creating this work of showing this journey for me at the beginning to in a very frazzled state to now. It's The Orange by Wendy Cope. At lunchtime, I bought a huge orange. The size of it made us all laugh. I halved it and shared it with Robert and Dave. They got quarters and I had a half. And that orange made me so happy, as ordinary things often do. Just lately, the shopping, the walks in the park. It's peace and contentment. It's new. The rest of my day was quite easy. I did all the tasks on my list and enjoyed them and spent some time over. I love you. I'm glad I exist.
Okay, thank you so much for tuning into the virtual exhibition, if you are tuning in. If not, then I hope, if you are here, then, well, my thanks will be sent out spiritually. But my name is Ty Salmons. This is for capstone that was originally supposed to be in April, late April, and I do work for the photography section of visual arts. And what my work mainly deals with is the topic of anxiety, and there's a lot of various definitions of what anxiety is depending on person to person. But if I can maybe give a very brief, very general, concise definition of it, it's mainly, it's like worry, but in a more like bigger sense. Like it's like how your body like physically reacts when you're like worried about something. Of course, like that can be like all sorts of things like sweating, like trouble breathing, like there are various like many different like how people deal with anxiety. And so this is how I personally deal with it. So these three settings right here are settings where I'm most comfortable in, where you have like my room, in a car, or in the shower. That I wanted to like hit home the fact that like anxiety can hit basically whenever, even when you're most comfortable. And so how I thought about like approaching that visually, because normally like it's hard to like really physically communicate anxiety through work. And I've been like really interested lately in capturing stuff that like you don't normally see physically, like almost in a spiritual sense. So when I get like really anxious, normally like I have like a really difficult time trying to like communicate, like not communicate, but like visualize like everything around me. And so like it literally becomes like a blur. And so I thought, okay, I think that will make for, you know, a good project. So I wanted to have like these settings depicted like as normal, and then like settings like depicted like as medium, so like you can still like very barely like see what's going on, and then like where it's like super chaotic like down at the bottom. And the thing is with all of these is that none of these were done like with software like Photoshop. Like all these were done like in camera. And what I did was that like I just shook the camera around like as the shutter was open, and then that's how I got one of these blur effects. And so this is just like there are like many different ways I can still communicate anxiety, like I said, because it varies from person to person. But this is just my personal experiences in like a way that's like most concise as possible. So, of course, I want to thank my friends and family for being very good support, and I also want to thank Ariel Wilson. She used to be a photography professor here at Marshall in the spring, but she was my mentor for this project, and so she really helped a lot. Like gave me a whole bunch of like good feedback, because like originally this project was going to be like in many different areas, but thankfully we held it down to one specific idea. And of course I want to thank Jenny Platt for helping organizing this exhibition, and Danny Kaufman, who taught our capstone originally, and everyone here at Marshall, and you for tuning in.
Hello, my name, as most of you know, is Joseph Schwartz, and for this project I did something very near and dear to my heart, stop motion film. The reason for me having such reverence for this medium is twofold. One, I consumed it quite a bit as a child, and two, as someone who doesn't really have a lot of background in technology and wanting to go into animation, it's something that was more accessible to me. When I took a lot of courses that were relevant to my intended career path, whether they be graphic design oriented or filmographic, I would struggle a bit because I just really didn't know that much how to use video editing software programs. Like I'm not really familiar with things like Blender or stuff like that. So I know I needed to try something that I could really get my hands on, and that led me to sort of come up with this. But it's not just the fact that I can't use a computer that made me want to do this. It's also that I feel it's also being dismissed out of hand for flaws that it has, in spite some of the flaws that newer CGI has. Like, for example, when CGI is done wrong, it's almost always considered uncanny and tacky, like to such a degree that, like in cartoons or media, when they want to show something look wrong or disturbing, they use really sort of janky CGI. Whereas while stop motion is known as being uncanny, it's always considered a little more pleasing to the eye. It's depicting an object that, no matter how fantastical it is, no matter how weird or alien it might be, it still appears to exist in our physical space. Well, because it does. Like the lighting, gravity, and just overall effects of the dimension surrounding it. I'm sorry, the video cut out for a second there. I'm just going to leave that in. But anyhow, like I said, it's depicting an object in actual space, so it appears more consistent with our eye. Like, for example, I want to show you this clip from the film. You're such a great warrior, prove it. Hand to hand. None of your magic shit. Would you just? Alright then. If you must. You can immediately recognize the lighting, the weight acting upon the objects, the way they move through space in general as being unabstracted and realistic, because it's all depicting a real object, obviously. But in terms about the technical aspects of the film, I don't really think there's too much to say. One thing I do pride myself on is, rather than using the traditional steel body with aluminum wire limb armatures, I simply use the entirety of the aluminum armature to create one sort of consistent skeleton that the latex skin set atop. Obviously I filled it with cotton a little bit so it wouldn't seem too saggy, like on the fatter characters' bellies, or just to make like the areas where the muscles would be in their arms look to be filled out. But I do pride myself on using fairly minimal design. In terms of what I did in the shot here, you can see that I had to make the drapery look realistic. Like, I had to take my shirt off my hoodie off in a mirror multiple times to sort of get what the folds of the clothing would look like. I wanted to see, like, basically what the nexus of, I more or less had to guess what the nexus of what it would be to take a shirt off, like, between the head and when you pull it over your shoulders, because you don't see that, even if you're looking at yourself in a mirror when you're taking off a sweater or a shirt. And that's about it for the technical aspect. There's more to talk about, obviously, but that's all I feel the need to address at the moment. So, in terms of the story, it's a fictional setting. Obviously, there's no direct social message here, but I do want to say something because the theme of our group is supposed to be, well, part of it, as the name In Hindsight would suggest, is looking back on what you've done in the past, but it's also about just how a person exists in society. And you'll notice throughout the film there's homophobic slurs and derision of the wizard for using magic. What that's based off is, the film is loosely based off Norse mythology and history, and I'll talk about that more to anyone who wants to ask me. The story's still a bit weird at the moment. I'm trying to chunk it all together. It's based off a concept known as satyr magic, which is a form of magic that was specifically supposed to be tailor-made for women, yet some men in Old Norse society were believed to participate in it. I found this interesting because you can sort of use that as like a modern parallel. For example, like anyone who's a straight male and also an artist, you sort of are shamed upon because, well, it's hard to make money in this in addition to art occasionally being viewed as more feminine, it's harder to make money and it's harder to bring something forward. So I could sort of relate to just being put down for something that, in spite of having use and useful and contribute something to society, you're ashamed for it because of your identity. I guess that'd be the only real connection there. Obviously, this isn't a social justice piece. However, I thought that was an interesting tidbit that did somewhat connect me more broadly to the group. Anyhow, this is going on a little too long. I'm sorry, Jamie, this is a bit longer than you said, but I feel that I've put everything I need to say here. It's a bit rambly, but trying to do my best. Thank you, and I hope this was informative.
Well, there you are. So there should be an area at the bottom right-hand side of your screen where, if you want to ask a question, you can enter it in. It's the Q&A function. So if you have a question, go ahead and type it in now. Meanwhile, I have a couple of questions for our artists. Oh, and I should let you know that two of the artists are not available right now. Corey and Joe are not available right now. So if you had a question for Corey or Joe and you don't know them personally, you're welcome to contact me, and I will try to get them in touch with you about your question. So, meanwhile, Breanna, I have a question for you. Breanna, can you turn your camera on?
There we go.
Hey, Breanna. So one of the things that I really noticed about your work was the way that you use light. And I'm wondering if you could talk about what light meant for you in your work.
Well, working with Blender, actually one of the most challenging things for me getting a hold of the program was the lighting. And so, but once I was able to get a hold of it, I was I wanted to see what I could use it for, And there was a lot of especially in the scenes with the dorm, of just the light coming on and off, and those kind of signaling the days going by so quickly. Because what I wanted to express with that clip was just how, with when you're deep into depression, it's hard to want to get the will to get out of bed, and that's what I wanted to show there. Just how the days seem to go on and over and over. But then, on the flip side of that, with more positive expressions of light, I wanted to with the scene of the riverfront park, especially, of just how the light shines off the river, and how there were so many times I'd go on a walk there and I would just watch the sun and the way that it would reflect off the water, and it was so beautiful. And it reminded me of those moments you're happy that you're alive, because you get to experience those beautiful moments where just the only thing that's happening in front of my eyes is that the light is reflecting off the water, and that's beautiful. And I wanted to kind of capture that by just using as much as I could through the program to express those feelings through the lighting. And I messed a lot with that stuff in post-production and things like that, but I wanted to really express the emotions of each scene through the lighting, especially in those, but also through all of them, because with the colors and how strong the light was, or how it was blocked or reflected and things like that.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. So Breanna, do you, if people want to find you on the internet, how can they do that?
Oh, I have I admit I don't have a lot of artist-only things, but I'm working on setting up a website and things like that. But right now, I do have an art-only Instagram that I have been trying to get my pieces up on. And the Instagram is Best Kind of Beehive, all one word, all lowercase, no dashes or hyphens or anything, just Best Kind of Beehive on Instagram. And I'll also be adding on like links to my other things once I get those set up.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. We have a question in the chat that's actually for Corey, and I just wanted to make sure that I say that Corey unfortunately isn't available for questions right now, and this is a really good question. So if the person who submitted the question for Corey wants to get in touch with me, you can do that, and I can try to put Corey in touch with you. Okay, so let's see. And there was another question or a comment really in the chat box, but I'm not sure who it was for. But the question had to do with that the person felt that the capstone subject matter was brave. So I'm not sure who that was for, and it probably could apply to most of you. Okay, another question that I have is for Chloe. Chloe, can you put your camera on? Are you there?
Hello, yes, I am here.
Okay, terrific. Hey, Chloe. So one of the things that that you talked a lot about was your use of materials. I'm wondering how you decided what kind of subject matter or imagery you would use in your collages.
Well, in terms of imagery, what I did was I took magazine cutouts, and what I would do is I would use the just the like watercolor, acrylic. I'd even use materials like lip gloss or like mascara, just to like, you know, be like unique and just see, you know, how that would act with just the traditional media. But on top of that, then I would work with the magazine cutouts, and I would honestly just see how I feel with how those pieces kind of interact together. And then, of course, the emotion behind the composition and everything like that. And I mean, as long as it had a feel of expression and movement, then I was satisfied, because that's kind of what it talks about in my subject. So, yeah.
Great. And how can people find you on the internet?
Sorry, could you say that again?
How can people find you on the internet?
So I do have an Instagram. It is Creations by Chloe. But instead of the S in creations, the Z, and then CHLO. But that's pretty much it.
Okay. Great, thank you. There's a question for Ty. Let's see. Ty, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. So question, Ty, was it hard to come up with the concept of anxiety for your work?
I guess not in the sense of like trying to come up with anxiety. The real difficult part was like trying to like narrow it down, because originally there were going to be like a whole bunch of different ways I wanted to present anxiety, because I was going to do like different like types of photographs and like a video projection and all sorts of other stuff. But then, of course, the pandemic happened. But I think what mostly affected it was just after a talk with my mentor, Ariel, we kind of came to an agreement that like, because I'm focusing so much on like so many different things, it's not like the best it can really be, if that makes sense. So it was just like the best idea to like narrow it down to like what I already had, because originally like I wanted to do like those blurred photos, and I also wanted to do like a self-portrait. I also wanted to do like these different like Photoshop like composites, if that makes sense. Like taking a bunch of photos and like creating a different scene with them in like a fantasy type setting. And again, we just decided that like the best it can really be is just if I focus on one, and the blurred ones were actually the strongest ones, so that's what we just really landed on. And just went with there.
Thank you, Ty.
No problem.
Question for Lily. Actually, Hannah has a question for Lily. Lily, you there? All right. All right. Hey, Lily. Hannah wants to know what helped you overcome the initial anger that you felt in regards to your parents. She says that shift in your perspective is truly inspiring. Hey, Lily, your mic is off. Lily, your mic is off. We may be having a technical problem. Well, we'll get back to you. It's okay. Thanks, Lily. Let's see. A question: if there was a reception in person, what refreshments would you have to serve? Oh my goodness. Well, since it's imaginary, I guess we could have just about anything. I mean, pizza sounds good. I don't know. Burritos, maybe? That's a good question. So, let's see. Looks like we got all the questions. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation, and thank you for coming. Take care.